The mysterious signal. In the silence of space, where no one could hear you scream, Earth received something unexpected. A mysterious signal, unlike anything humans had ever encountered, broke through the void. It was faint at first, almost like a whisper in the vastness of space, but it was there. A strange frequency, barely noticeable to the untrained ear, but undeniable to the sharp minds of Earth's top scientists. At the Global Space Communications Center in Geneva, alarms blared across the control room. Dr. Elena Roberts, a lead scientist in space communications, looked at the screen in disbelief. The signal had spiked. It was unlike any natural occurrence. The hum of static buzzed around her, but there was no mistaking it. She immediately ordered the signal be amplified, her heart racing. Was this a message from another civilization? Or something worse? The signal came in bursts of rhythmic patterns, each one slightly different from the last. It wasn't random noise. It was something deliberate, purposeful. Dr. Roberts' team worked tirelessly through the night, tracing the origin of the signal. After hours of analyzing the data, they pinpointed the source, somewhere far beyond the known galaxy, a point of deep space that no human spacecraft had ever traveled to. As the signal was decoded piece by piece, the team began to understand its chilling message. It was short but simple. Your doom is inevitable. The room fell silent as the words appeared on the screen. The message was blunt, terrifying, and urgent. Dr. Roberts stared at it, her mind racing. Who would send such a message, and why? Her team scrambled to decode more, but the words, "Your doom is inevitable," echoed in their minds. Fear gripped the hearts of the scientists. Had they made contact with an advanced civilization? One that had already decided humanity's fate, or was it a cruel trick? As the hours passed, governments around the world were alerted. News outlets began reporting the mysterious signal. Panic spread like wildfire, yet no one knew what it meant. Was this a threat, a warning, or a declaration of something far worse? The military began to prepare. Satellites were redirected, and every ear was tuned to the frequency of the signal. But despite the panic, there were no answers, only more signals that continued to echo, saying the same chilling words. Your doom is inevitable. Days passed, and the fear only grew. Dr. Roberts couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The Zorathians, an ancient alien species known only in myths and legends, had been spoken of in whispers for centuries. Some claimed that they were a force that destroyed civilizations without mercy. Others thought they were nothing more than stories told to frighten children. But now it seemed as though they were real, and they were coming. It was then that the true weight of the message hit. This wasn't just a random transmission. The aliens, whoever they were, had deliberately chosen to send this message. They had broadcast it to Earth with the clear intent of sending a warning. Humanity had no idea who they were up against or how to stop them. The idea that Earth might be doomed felt more real with every passing second. But there was one thing that kept Dr. Roberts focused: humanity's refusal to accept defeat. Earth had faced wars, plagues, and natural disasters, and each time, humanity had managed to survive, to push forward. Could it do the same against an unknown enemy? Dr. Roberts didn't know. But she knew one thing for sure: humanity was not going down without a fight. She gathered her team. We need to figure out everything we can about this signal, she ordered. Every piece of data, every signal burst. There has to be something in here that tells us more about who or what is sending this message. But even as she spoke, deep inside, she couldn't shake the fear that no amount of decoding would change the inevitable truth. Earth's fate might already be sealed. The signal continued, relentless and cold. Your doom is inevitable, it repeated. A simple sentence, but one that carried a weight that could crush the hearts of even the bravest souls. The team worked tirelessly, night and day. They analyzed, calculated, and speculated. But still, there was no clear answer. The silence between bursts of static only seemed to deepen the fear. Some tried to remain optimistic, but the truth was becoming clearer. Whatever or whoever was sending the signal, they had no intention of negotiating. The fate of humanity was now a ticking clock, and the world held its breath. The unknown was coming, and all they could do was wait and hope that somehow, someway, humanity would find a way to survive. As the signal echoed across the world, all eyes were on Dr. Roberts and her team. The world waited for answers, but no answers were coming. Not yet. The only thing that remained certain was the message: your doom is inevitable. Dr. Elena Roberts sat at her desk, staring at the flashing data on the screen. The world was looking to her for answers, but what could she offer? Humanity was outmatched and outgunned. The Zorethians were coming, and they would be here soon. Every moment that passed felt like a countdown to extinction. But then, amidst the panic and hopelessness, something began to shift. Dr. Roberts refused to believe that this was the end. Humanity had faced insurmountable odds before and survived. Could they do it again? Could they find a way to fight back? She called an emergency meeting with the United Nations top leaders and military officials. The room was packed with the world's most powerful people, all staring at her with a mix of fear and expectation. They knew there was no turning back. If humanity was going to survive, it was up to them, and Dr. Roberts, to find a way. "We need a plan," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the tense silence. "But not just any plan. We need a strategy that can challenge the Zorethians in ways they don't expect. A strategy that uses our greatest strengths, our adaptability, creativity, and determination." Her words seemed to hang in the air. Could humanity really stand a chance? But Dr. Roberts wasn't done. She continued, explaining what she had learned from ancient texts and her research into the Zorethians. "We may not be able to beat them with firepower alone, but what we can do is play to our strengths. The Zorethians are a powerful force, but they rely on one thing: their arrogance. They believe they are unbeatable, that no one can outthink them, and that is where we have the advantage." The room grew quieter as the world's leaders and military strategists considered her words. It was true. Humanity had always been resourceful, able to innovate in ways no one could predict. If they could surprise the Zorethians, they might have a chance. Dr. Roberts proposed a two-pronged approach. The first was an intelligence mission, sending a small elite team of humans to attempt contact with the Zorethian fleet. Their goal was to learn as much as possible about the aliens' weaknesses, not through brute force, but through observation and cunning. The second part of the plan was an all-out defense strategy to prepare Earth for an invasion, hoping that the Zorethians might hesitate long enough to buy time. But there was a significant problem. The Zorethians were already closing in on Earth, and the window for a peaceful solution was closing fast. Dr. Roberts and her team worked day and night, coordinating with the best minds on Earth to refine their plan. They pulled in experts from all fields: astrophysicists, engineers, psychologists, and military leaders, each contributing their unique expertise to the effort. The clock was ticking, and the first wave of the Zorethian fleet was already entering the solar system. Earth had no choice but to prepare for the worst. Despite all the preparations, Dr. Roberts knew there was no way to win this fight conventionally. The Zorethians were too powerful, too technologically advanced. Humanity's only chance was to outsmart them. Meanwhile, the people of Earth were getting restless. News reports and broadcasts showed the growing Zorethian fleet, a dark and looming presence in the skies. Panic was rising, and many began to lose hope. They saw the end coming, and it felt inevitable. But in the midst of this fear, something remarkable began to happen. A sense of unity emerged that had never been seen before. Governments, corporations, and civilians all started working together in ways they never had. People began to donate their resources, ideas, and support to the cause. It was as if the world had finally realized that survival was not just a matter of individual countries or groups. It was humanity as a whole against an unstoppable force. The global response was unprecedented, and a collective determination started to form. Earth was about to face its greatest challenge, but for the first time in history, humanity stood united as one. Dr. Roberts was moved by the outpouring of support, but she also knew the stakes were higher than ever. If they failed, everything would be lost. But there was no room for doubt now. She couldn't allow herself to be afraid. "We have one shot at this," Dr. Roberts said in her final meeting before the mission. "And we will take it, together." The mission to face the Zorathians wasn't just about saving Earth. It was about proving that humanity was more than the sum of its parts, that even in the face of certain destruction, the will to survive, to fight for each other, would carry them forward. As the countdown to the Zorathian invasion began, the world held its breath. The plan was set into motion, but only time would tell if it would be enough. Earth's greatest minds had come together, and humanity was now on the precipice of its greatest battle. The revelation. As the days passed, the world's attention remained fixated on the mysterious signal. Dr. Elena Roberts and her team were no closer to understanding the meaning behind the cryptic message. The phrase, "Your doom is inevitable," continued to echo in their minds, gnawing at their thoughts. On the 5th day of analyzing the signal, a breakthrough came. After tirelessly adjusting their decoding algorithms, they finally deciphered a sequence embedded within the message. This sequence, when translated, revealed a new message. It wasn't just a warning anymore. It was a declaration. The new words flashed on the screen. "We are the Zorathians. Your civilization is next." A cold shiver ran down Dr. Roberts' spine. The Zorathians were a name from Earth's darkest legends, an ancient alien race known for destroying entire civilizations with ruthless efficiency. Stories about them had been passed down through generations, whispered in hushed tones, and thought to be nothing more than myths. But now, the Zorathians were real, and they were coming for Earth. The team's initial disbelief quickly turned into panic. Dr. Roberts gathered the others, her hands shaking slightly as she spoke. "This is no longer just a signal. It's a threat. They are coming for us, and they've already set their sights on Earth." The room was filled with silence as the gravity of the situation sank in. The Zorathians were known for their unmatched technological superiority, having wiped out countless civilizations in their wake. No one knew how they did it or what their true motivations were, but the evidence was clear. Humanity was now on their radar. "We have to warn the world," Dr. Roberts said, her voice steady despite the terror that gripped her. "We need to tell everyone. This isn't just some strange transmission anymore. It's an invasion." As news of the decoded message spread, panic surged across the globe. Governments and military forces scrambled to respond. The UN convened emergency meetings, and military bases went on high alert. People started to panic, unsure of what to do or where to go. Shelters were stocked with supplies, and cities braced for what seemed like an inevitable war with an enemy they couldn't even comprehend. Meanwhile, Dr. Roberts and her team worked around the clock, trying to learn as much as possible about the Zorathians. They dug through every piece of ancient data, looking for clues. The Zorathians had never left a trace of their presence. No wreckage, no evidence, nothing. They were ghosts in the galaxy, leaving only destruction in their wake. It was as if they had perfected the art of erasing civilizations without leaving a trace. After days of research, they uncovered a disturbing discovery. The Zorathians weren't just coming to conquer Earth. They had done this countless times before. Their pattern was clear. They arrived, destroyed the civilization, and moved on. It was a cycle that had been repeating for centuries. But there was one glimmer of hope buried within the data. An ancient text, dating back to a time before recorded history, hinted at one possible weakness in the Zorathian Empire. The text spoke of an ancient conflict where a small, unexpected force managed to push the Zorathians back, not by force, but by outsmarting them. The idea that the Zorathians could be defeated wasn't impossible, but it would take everything humanity had, and then some. Dr. Roberts clung to this hope. "We might have a chance," she muttered to herself. "If we can understand them, If we can figure out how they think, maybe we can find a way to survive. But the clock was ticking. As the signal continued to pulse through space, humanity was running out of time. The Zorethians were already on their way. Dr. Roberts knew that unless something drastic happened, Earth would soon be facing its most dire crisis in history. The world prepared for the worst, but the question on everyone's mind was the same. How could humanity stop an enemy so powerful and mysterious? As the threat of the Zorethians loomed larger, humanity's future hung in the balance. The message was clear, and there was no turning back. Earth was facing its greatest challenge yet, and no one knew if they could survive what was coming. But as Dr. Roberts sat in the control room, staring at the flickering message, a sense of determination began to form within her. The Zorethians may have thought humanity's doom was inevitable, but she wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. Humanity's plan. The world was in chaos. Nations scrambled to respond, and fear gripped every corner of the Earth. The Zorethians, with their terrifyingly advanced technology and reputation for annihilation, were now at humanity's doorstep. Every possible defense was mobilized, but deep down, most people feared it wouldn't be enough. The Zorethians had already decided humanity's fate, and nothing seemed capable of stopping them. The battle begins. The day had arrived. The Zorethian fleet was closing in on Earth, their massive ships cutting through space at an unimaginable speed. The Earth's defense systems were in place, but everyone knew deep down that they weren't enough. Still, humanity wasn't giving up. They had one last chance to fight for survival, and they were going to use every weapon they had, both physical and mental. Dr. Elena Roberts stood in the command center, her eyes fixed on the screen. The Zorethians had finally arrived. Their ships loomed in Earth's orbit, enormous and dark, casting shadows over the planet. They had arrived with a terrifying silence, not even a single shot fired yet. The calm before the storm only made the atmosphere even more oppressive. The human forces, made up of every country's best and brightest military personnel, were ready. They had adapted their technology, strengthening Earth's defense systems with everything they had. Laser-guided missiles, defense satellites, and space drones were positioned around the planet in preparation for the oncoming alien invasion. Yet, as the Zorethian ships began to position themselves above Earth, the reality of the situation began to sink in. Their fleet was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. "Stay calm," Dr. Roberts instructed over the comms, her voice a beacon of strength amidst the fear. "We have a plan. We fight for our future. We fight for Earth." The battle began almost without warning. The Zorethians opened fire, and the silence that had blanketed the planet shattered with a devastating explosion of light and sound. Energy pulses slammed into Earth's defense shields, sending shockwaves rippling across the surface. Humanity's forces retaliated, but their weapons had little effect on the Zorethian ships. Every missile and laser blast that struck the alien shields bounced off as if they were nothing more than pebbles. From the command center, Dr. Roberts watched in horror as the first wave of human spacecraft were destroyed. The Zorethians were attacking with such precision, it was as if they had anticipated every move the humans would make. Their ships moved gracefully, almost like predators toying with their prey. Every shot fired from Earth's defenses was met with a counterstrike that seemed even more powerful than before. But despite the overwhelming odds, the humans didn't falter. In the chaos of the battle, a small group of ships led by Commander Daniel Hayes, one of the best tactical minds humanity had, launched a surprise counterattack. They targeted a weak point in the Zorethian fleet that Dr. Roberts and her team had discovered, a gap in their defensive formation. Commander Hayes, a man of few words, marked orders as the fleet of ships surged toward the Zorethian command ship. "Aim for the heart," he commanded. "We can't win with brute force. We need to strike fast, and we need to strike hard." As the human ships raced toward the Zorethian flagship, the alien fleet turned, their weapons charging. The tension was unbearable. Would the humans manage to break through the Zorethian defenses? The answer came in a blinding flash as Commander Hayes' ship fired a precisely aimed shot right into the heart of the Zorathian ship's defense systems. The explosion that followed was unlike anything Earth had ever witnessed. The Zorathian flagship's shields flickered and collapsed, exposing the massive ship's vulnerable core. But the victory was short-lived. The Zorathians retaliated quickly, unleashing a devastating wave of energy blasts that tore through the human fleet. Commander Hayes' ship was hit, and the crew was lost in an instant. The human forces watched in horror as their friends and comrades vanished in an explosion of fire and metal. The Zorathians didn't seem to be affected by the human attack. Their ships moved with deadly precision, and with each moment, Earth's defenses seemed to crumble further. Panic began to spread through the ranks of humanity's forces, but Dr. Roberts refused to give in. "Keep fighting. Don't let them see our fear," she shouted, her voice clear and resolute. "We have to hold them off long enough to make our move." The human forces fought with everything they had. The battle raged on for hours, each moment more intense than the last. Every single human soldier, fighter, and strategist knew that this was more than just a battle for survival. It was a battle for the future of the human race. And though the odds were stacked against them, they were going to give everything they had. But just as it seemed like all was lost, Dr. Roberts received a piece of unexpected data from her team. In a moment of hope, the team discovered that the Zorathian fleet had a weakness, a flaw in their energy system that the humans could exploit. They had discovered a critical point in the Zorathian ships that, if hit just right, would disable their entire fleet. "Commander Hayes," Dr. Roberts communicated through the emergency channel. "There's a way to stop them. We have to hit their energy core. I'll send the coordinates." Commander Hayes, despite the immense pressure and loss of life, didn't hesitate. His voice came through the comms, strong and steady. "Send me the coordinates. We're taking them down." With humanity's last hope hanging by a thread, the final moments of the battle unfolded. The Zorathian fleet was stronger, more advanced, and seemingly unbeatable, but humanity's will to survive could not be underestimated. The battle was far from over, but one thing was certain: Earth would not go down without a fight. Humanity's resilience. The battle for Earth raged on, with the Zorathian fleet continuing to dominate. Despite the relentless onslaught, humanity's fighters pressed on, their ships weaving through the chaos, dodging blasts, and attempting to strike back at the seemingly invincible alien fleet. The fight was no longer about tactics, it had become about survival. Dr. Elena Roberts sat in the command center, watching as the war unfolded on the screen before her. The air was thick with tension, the sounds of the battle echoing through the communications network. The Zorathians were pushing forward, destroying Earth's defenses piece by piece, and time was quickly running out. It was clear that humanity had underestimated their enemy's power, but there was still one thing left to fight for: hope. Humanity was down but not out. In the midst of the destruction, a glimmer of hope emerged. The data that Dr. Roberts' team had painstakingly gathered revealed something extraordinary: a weakness in the Zorathian fleet's energy system. It had taken every ounce of effort, every bit of human ingenuity, but they had discovered a crucial vulnerability, one that, if exploited, could disable the entire Zorathian fleet. The Zorathians' massive ships, while technologically superior, had an energy core that could be disabled. This core was the heart of their ships, the source of their devastating firepower. The core's location, however, was heavily protected by several layers of energy shields. The question was not whether it could be destroyed, but whether humanity could pull off the impossible and hit it with pinpoint accuracy before their forces were completely wiped out. With Commander Daniel Hayes' fleet decimated and only a few ships remaining, the remaining survivors were left with a single desperate chance. "We can do this. We have to," Dr. Roberts said, her voice barely above a whisper. She had no time for fear. There was no room for failure. Earth's last hope now rested with a small group of survivors, those who had made it through the chaos and managed to regroup. Dr. Roberts quickly put the plan into action. A team of the best pilots and engineers was gathered, led by Commander Hayes' second-in-command, Lieutenant Maya Silva. The remaining ships formed up in a final tight formation, one that would require every ounce of skill and precision. "We hit them where it hurts," Lieutenant Silva said, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. "We aim for the core, and we do it fast. No second chances." The mission was simple but deadly. A small group of ships, carrying human-made, high-powered energy weapons, would infiltrate the Zorathian fleet and strike the weak points in their energy cores. They had one shot, one opportunity to change the course of the battle. If they failed, Earth would fall. The Zorathians would destroy everything. The surviving human ships dove into the heart of the Zorathian formation, dodging blasts and weaving between incoming fire. It was an act of sheer will and determination, knowing that every second counted. The tension in the cockpit was unbearable, the sound of weapons charging and energy blasts filling the air. As the ships got closer to the Zorathian flagship, the alien defenses intensified. The shields flared with energy, pushing back against humanity's final assault. For a moment, it seemed as if all hope was lost. The human fleet was being overwhelmed, with ships exploding left and right. But then something extraordinary happened. The last remaining ship, piloted by Lieutenant Silva, managed to slip through the Zorathian defenses. The ship darted past a barrage of energy blasts and went straight for the heart of the Zorathian flagship. "Now," Lieutenant Silva shouted, her hand gripping the controls with a fierce determination. The powerful energy weapon fired, hitting the Zorathian core with pinpoint precision. The blast was massive, unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The Zorathian ship shuddered violently as its energy core exploded, sending shockwaves throughout the entire fleet. The explosion was like a chain reaction. One by one, the Zorathian ships began to falter, their energy systems collapsing under the force of the attack. The once imposing fleet was now in disarray, its ships vulnerable and defenseless. Humanity's resilience had paid off. The remaining Zorathian ships, now severely weakened, attempted to retreat, but it was too late. The remaining human forces regrouped and launched a final offensive, finishing off the Zorathian fleet with brutal efficiency. As the last of the enemy ships exploded in a ball of fire, Earth was saved. Dr. Roberts watched the final moments unfold, her heart racing. The war was over, and humanity had won, not through brute strength, but through ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to give up. "We did it," she whispered to herself, a tear slipping down her cheek. Earth had survived. The victory wasn't just a military triumph, it was a testament to humanity's spirit. Despite facing an overwhelming enemy, the people of Earth had come together and found a way to survive. Against all odds, humanity had not only fought back, but had also claimed victory. As the remnants of the Zorathian fleet drifted into the void, a new hope for the future was born. Earth had been tested, and it had prevailed. The message was clear: no matter how powerful the enemy, no matter how certain the doom seemed, humanity's resilience would always shine through. The final stand. As the last Zorathian ships disintegrated into space debris, Earth's survivors allowed themselves only a brief moment of relief before the reality set in. The battle was far from over, and the Zorathians' defeat was just the beginning. The message that had echoed across the galaxy, the one that had brought fear and uncertainty to humanity, was still in their minds. Your doom is inevitable. Dr. Elena Roberts stood in the command center, her gaze fixed on the remaining ships still scattered across Earth's orbit. Despite the retreat of the Zorathian fleet, the battle wasn't truly won yet. The Zorathians had shown before that they did not give up easily. It wasn't just about defeating the fleet. It was about surviving the final assault. They had to prepare for one last, desperate strike from the alien forces. Suddenly, the intercom crackled, and the voice of Commander Silva came through, filled with urgency. "Dr. Roberts, We've got incoming. A final Zorethian wave. Heavier, faster, and more coordinated than anything we've seen. Dr. Roberts' heart dropped. The brief sense of victory was shattered. The Zorethians weren't finished yet. They had retreated to regroup, and now they were coming back with everything they had. We're not going down without a fight, Dr. Roberts said to herself, more to her own resolve than anyone else. She gathered the remaining military leaders, engineers, and scientists, and they quickly began drafting their final strategy. Humanity's defenses had already taken a beating, but they had learned from their previous battles, adapting their technology with each move. "We need to take the fight to them," said General Marcus Hale, a seasoned war strategist who had seen countless battles. "We've weakened them, but now we must finish this. If we don't, they will come back stronger. We cannot let them regroup." The remaining human ships were patched up, and despite the losses, the survivors were determined to press forward. Earth's fate rested on this final stand. The military had a plan, but it wasn't just a battle of strength. It was a battle of will. The Zorethian fleet was closing in fast, and the final confrontation was imminent. As the enemy ships entered Earth's atmosphere, the humans launched their final defensive counterattack. The weapons they had developed based on the Zorethians' weaknesses were ready, and this time, they were prepared to exploit it further. For the first time, the Zorethians were not moving with their usual cold precision. Their forces were scattered, disorganized, as if they were desperate, rushing headlong into a battle they thought they could win easily. But humanity, now battle-hardened and focused, used this to their advantage. The human ships split into multiple groups, taking advantage of the Zorethians' disarray, attacking in waves to divide their attention. They used advanced maneuvers, unpredictable flight patterns, and hit-and-run tactics to target weak points in the alien ships. Humanity's fighters had learned to use the Zorethians' overconfidence against them, exploiting their underestimation of human ingenuity. As the final battle began to unfold in the skies above Earth, Dr. Roberts worked with the remaining engineers and strategists to deploy the final weapon. The one thing the Zorethians hadn't anticipated. It was an EMP device, one that had been designed to disable their energy cores once and for all. It wasn't a weapon of mass destruction, but it would be a weapon of ultimate disruption. The device was launched into the heart of the Zorethian fleet, and as it detonated, the shockwave rippled through the enemy ships. The energy systems of the Zorethian vessels began to falter. Shields that had once been impenetrable flickered and went dark. The heart of their fleet was exposed. "This is it," Commander Silva said, her voice tinged with determination. "Strike now." The human forces, now emboldened by their newfound advantage, launched one final coordinated attack. The weakened Zorethian ships, unable to defend themselves properly, began to fall. Earth's forces targeted their energy cores, hitting them with pinpoint accuracy. One by one, the Zorethian ships began to explode, sending debris scattering across the black void of space. Yet, even in defeat, the Zorethians were relentless. A few of their ships, severely damaged, began to launch one final assault, aiming directly for Earth's most vulnerable points, the planet's energy grid and the key infrastructure that would take years to rebuild. It was their last attempt to deliver a devastating blow. But humanity was ready. At the last moment, Earth's defenses, now fully activated, took out the last Zorethian ships in a final burst of energy. The remaining debris of the Zorethian fleet floated helplessly in the vastness of space. The battle was over. Earth had won. As the dust settled and the remnants of the Zorethian threat drifted into nothingness, Dr. Roberts watched the final transmissions from the surviving ships. She had done it. Humanity had done it. They had overcome the most overwhelming force the universe had ever seen, not with brute strength, but with cleverness, unity, and determination. There were no cheers, no celebration, just a deep collective sigh of relief. Earth had survived, but the cost had been immense. Many lives had been lost, entire cities had been destroyed, and the scars of the battle would last for generations. But in that moment, there was one undeniable truth. Humanity had shown the universe that their doom was not inevitable. They had risen against all odds, faced extinction, and emerged victorious. The Zorathians might have thought they were unbeatable, but humanity had proved them wrong. The ultimate victory. The silence that followed the final explosion of the last Zorathian ship was deafening. In the control room, Dr. Elena Roberts and the remaining leaders of Earth's military forces stood frozen, watching as the holographic displays flickered and confirmed that the alien threat had been neutralized. The Zorathian fleet, once so overwhelming and powerful, was now nothing more than debris floating in the dark expanse of space. Dr. Roberts could barely process it. Earth had survived. The impossible had been achieved. It felt like a dream, one that she wasn't ready to wake from. The battle had been grueling, the loss of life unimaginable, but in the end, humanity had emerged victorious. The Zorathians, who had once claimed that humanity's doom was inevitable, had been defeated by the one thing they hadn't accounted for, the will to survive. "We did it," she whispered, her voice hoarse with exhaustion. "We won." The command center was silent for a long moment. Then, as if on cue, the room erupted in a mix of disbelief, relief, and joy. Officers hugged each other, technicians wiped away tears, and the soldiers who had fought in the battle gave each other silent nods of acknowledgement. The battle was over, but the road ahead would be long and hard. The victory, while momentous, had come at a great cost. Cities had been destroyed, infrastructure had been shattered, and millions had lost their lives in the struggle to protect Earth. The wounds of war would not heal overnight, but the survivors stood together, bound by a shared experience that had tested their very humanity. Dr. Roberts addressed the gathered leaders, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "This is just the beginning," she said. "The Zorathians came because they thought humanity would fall, but we've proven something to the universe today. No matter how great the odds, no matter how certain the doom, humanity will fight back. We will rebuild. We will rise stronger than before." The message of humanity's resilience, the message that had echoed across the battlefield, now echoed throughout the world. Earth's survivors, citizens, military personnel, scientists, and leaders came together to face the monumental task of rebuilding their planet. They worked side by side, united by the knowledge that they had overcome the greatest challenge in human history. As the weeks passed, Earth began to heal. New cities were built, old alliances were strengthened, and humanity's spirit was reignited. But there was one thing that no one could forget: the last message from the Zorathians. The words that had once filled the world with fear and uncertainty. "Your doom is inevitable," were now remembered as a lie. Humanity had turned that message into something else, a declaration of their strength, of their refusal to accept defeat. The message was no longer a warning from the enemy. It was a challenge, one that humanity had answered and conquered. It was a reminder that no matter how bleak the future seemed, there was always hope. The final broadcast to the universe was sent out from Earth's communication centers, its message clear for all to hear. We stand. We survive. We endure. As the broadcast made its way into the cosmos, the people of Earth gathered to watch the stars. They knew that, somewhere out there, other civilizations were watching them. The universe had just witnessed the ultimate demonstration of human resilience, a small, fragile species that had faced extinction and survived, against all odds. In the aftermath of the battle, Dr. Roberts stood on the balcony of the United Nations building, overlooking the city below. The stars were visible above, twinkling in the night sky, a silent reminder of the vastness of the universe. But for the first time, she didn't feel small. Earth had proven that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, humanity had the strength to stand tall. "We've shown them who we are," Dr. Roberts said softly, her voice filled with pride. "And we've shown them that our story isn't over." As the world moved forward into an uncertain future, one thing was certain. Humanity had not only survived, but had emerged stronger, more united, and more determined than ever before. The Zorathians may have thought that humanity's doom was inevitable, but Earth had proven that no force, no matter how powerful, could ever take away their hope. Earth had survived, and with it, the spirit of humanity would continue to endure, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might throw their way.